Good evening, this is Trafalgar Valentine Vehicle Designs. This is my little commentary series on where I like to paint awesome vehicles and stuff. I'm more of artist by trade, so I like to paint different vehicles for people or for various different companies. These ones are more my promotional type where I've got no orders at the moment, so I'm just going to promote my business by painting random vehicles I find on Instagram. This one is going to be a Mini Cooper painting. Before I get into that, my previous two paintings, the Scania one that I did, I successfully managed to get 10 likes with that and 85 views on my Instagram. And the Mustang, the owner, collaborated on his page, so that got me 63 likes and 760 views. That's probably my biggest one so far. 63 likes is crazy. Now on to the Mini painting. This Mini was a lot more straightforward than the previous paintings I had. From the previous two, which were A3, I wanted a bit more efficient, so I did this on a smaller size paper, again using my Stationery Island watercolour paper, which is my best favourite kind of paper to use. It's 300 GSM, which means I can hold a lot of layers onto it. I think the most layers I had in one BMW painting was like 20 layers or something. Absolutely crazy, but yeah, this paper is my favourite paper to actually use for watercolour paints. And for this one, instead of using a biro or a pencil, coloured pencil that I used in my previous ones, I decided to use just a simple light pencil sketch just to get the rough lines just there, and then I used a marker pen and a brown marker pen just to get like a few shadows at the bottom, just so the pencil sketch isn't too lost within the watercolour paints. I then proceeded to use watercolour paints on top of that, using lots of different blues and stuff like that, just a very light saturated blue for the vehicle. I had some white stripes at the top, so I avoided doing those. Then once the watercolour paint was down, it was very straightforward. I wanted to try and change things up a bit from my previous ones. So my previous two, I built up the layers of darkness with like dark blues and stuff like that to control the contrast on the actual paper. This is a process I'd use where when you add like a very sharp contrast in a picture, that directs your eye to the focal point of the whole painting. So what I like to do in my previous ones is I used to do that later on, so that way I can like figure out where I want the eye to actually go, whether I'm in the front of the vehicle, the side of the vehicle, the back, etc. and stuff. This one, however, I decided to go completely different. I don't actually plan these paintings out, so none of these are actually like just figured out and stuff. These are all intuitively made. So this one I went straight into the black lines, sort of like a nice cartoon kind of retro feel. So I just did sharp black lines with a Unipen waterproof marker. Very important that it's waterproof because you don't want to bleed with any like wet patches of the watercolour paints in this. Again, this was very fast. I think I did this in about an hour and a half, this whole picture. So I just then built up the dark lines, so I had a lot of thick lines for the darker areas. And then as it got lighter, I had like these hashed lines, like cross-hatching effect, which means I just had like a diagonal line triangle to keep the same line throughout the whole vehicle. And then when it gets to the darker areas, I go across the other way. So this gives a nice gradation from the single line to the double line, and then got to the solid black. So you've got 3 layers of shading there. And this just makes it a lot more efficient than like gradually doing it with I could do this with a pencil maybe, and just slowly soften it all up. Or I could do it with watercolour paints and add layer and layer and layer. I felt this is a bit more efficient way to do it because I just wanted to get the picture out there as soon as I could. So I just built up those shadows up with those cross lines and stuff. I also outlined some of the shadows as well, as you can see. So some areas where it's got like a block of like lines, instead of actually leaving the lines just free, I kind of like drew around the lines first where I wanted the lines to be, and then filled in that shape. I just built this process over the whole period of the vehicle. Unfortunately, there was a lot of this, like my previous ones I mentioned, there was a lot of this not filmed on camera just because it's tedious, and also I take the picture with me wherever I go, so it's not always in my studio where I'm filming. So I might take it home with us when I'm like looking after the Ben and I've got like 5-10 minutes to myself, or take it to work with us and just doing like a 5-minute break or something. So like I take these paintings with me, so I can't actually like film everything that I do. But it's just the same process, just doing the lines all across the whole picture. Just to finish off the picture, I did just like a simple like line around the bottom of the picture and a little like picture of some trees and mountains. It's very simplistic. I don't want to be too like distracting from the actual car itself. You'll notice at the bottom as well where the wheels are, I didn't actually complete the lines. I just wanted to kind of bleed into the bottom of it. This effect just sort of has like a sharp contrast at the top with the thick lines, and then like a bleed effect at the bottom, so it's like softer at the bottom. What I really liked about this picture is how quickly I managed to turn out it was. This is exactly what I wanted. I wanted to be more efficient. I do like to use the big ones, big A3 ones every now and then, but sometimes afterwards they can get a bit tedious because these can take like multiple sessions in my studio. And when you've got other vehicles you want to actually paint and want to actually do and promote and stuff, you want to actually get ideas out there as soon as possible. I'm not going for like hyper realistic here. I'm just going for an artistic expression of watercolor paints and stuff. Again, just to promote my business. What I didn't like about this vehicle is I think the black lines kind of made it a bit too dark. I think that was the only problem. Was I just, like I said, these paintings are kind of intuitively done, so I don't really plan anything out with the actual paintings. It's just I just go for it. And likewise to my customers, I don't actually plan any of the customer paintings when I tell them. I just say, let's see how it goes. I've got the prompt that they want. When they've got various different prompts, I just guide the actual painting towards that initial effect. But I don't like to actually plan anything out. When it comes to actually planning vehicles out and stuff, it can get very can restrict the creativity a lot because I've got all these guidelines to follow, and it creates a very narrow passage for the creativity to flow. Well, I've got no guidelines to actually follow, but I've just got a prompt, like somewhere for the painting to actually go. I can then just freely move and just see how the painting takes me. I might add a bit here, add a bit there, do this, do that, and this, stuff like that. At the end, the overall effect is just the same. I think next time if I do this painting like a similar one again, I'll probably just do the lines again, but maybe do it in a dark blue instead. So this will make it a bit more saturated, and it won't make it so dark and like rough as it would be anyway. I still really like this painting though, even though it did turn out darker and stuff like that. I still think it was quite a successful painting. I managed to get 5 likes on this on Instagram, which is fantastic, and 72 views. So yeah, overall good success with this painting. Again, I'll probably use this technique for the second one. There was a parallel one I did this, which will be in the next video. Similar technique. So when I usually do paintings, I usually do them in tandem with 2 of the others. That just keeps my creativity flowing. So I'm not just restricted to one single painting. So I'll always have 2 paintings going at once. I had the Mustang and the truck going at once. I had this Mini Cooper, and I've got the next one, which is a Ford Falcon, I think. And these both paintings I had exactly the same kind of technique that I did. The next painting I'm going to try and do more, not keep it as dark, maybe add a bit more colours to it. So I might try and do the lines again, but maybe just like the cross hatching lines. I really like that kind of effect. So I might just try and do that again, but maybe a bit more colour into it. And we'll see how it goes and stuff. There was one final thing I added as well. I did a little bit of touch of white gouache on a few areas, like on top of the headlight and stuff like that, and on top of the wheel arch and stuff. This is just a very opaque medium to add on top of the actual paintings, just to really bring out those highlights and those highlighted areas. So any areas, although the whole vehicle is all blue and stuff like that, but I still want like white areas of reflection. And this just helps give the 3D effect. Cooper painting, hope you enjoyed it. Like and subscribe and all other pish, and yeah, any comments for any like recommendations for any vehicles I like to do. I picked this mini one in particular. It's not my favourite kind of car. I don't really like minis, to be honest, but it's just another random car that I find on Instagram online. And this one was from Vancouver in Canada. So likewise what I said before, when I want to try and diverse my customers by doing lots of different vehicles and stuff. So I did a Mustang, I did a tipper truck, now I'm doing Mini Cooper. I also like to diverse in countries as well. So I get a lot of business in America, Canada, some in Finland, Sweden, Australia, Germany, lots of different countries and stuff. So try and keep like different vehicles, different areas of the world and stuff like that. This just helps branch out my customers all over the world, so it's not just focused in one particular area. But yeah, so overall good.